This is California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Bob Stockton is back. He is a member of the Western Municipal Water District, and I want to thank you for joining us, sir. What area does Western cover?
Well, basically, if you were to break it down geographically, it would be roughly from the 215 freeway to the Orange County line, and then from the county border, North Riverside border, all the way down to San Diego County.
So it's a pretty large area, a significant portion of the Inland Empire, indeed.
Absolutely.
And let's talk about the Inland Empire, because like the rest of the state, the Inland Empire went pretty strongly for the water bond, Proposition 1. Over 60% voted for it in the Inland Empire, about 67% voted for it statewide. Were you surprised by the margin of victory of Prop 1?
No, it was testing really well going into, and I think Governor Brown really devoted a significant amount of effort to the passage of Props 1 and 2 rather than his own campaign. And I think that
worked out well on both fronts.
It sure did.
For him at least. Let me get a sense from you, before we talk about the particulars of Prop 1, about where we are today. Because yes, we've had a few rains, which has been cathartic, I must say, but are we on the other side of the rainbow, or are we still facing significant challenges?
We have significant challenges. What's happened is the rainfall was great, but really where we've gone is in the areas of, there's the two highest areas of what's considered a drought is exceptional and extreme, exceptional being the worst. And in the last 3 months, we went from roughly a little over 58% exceptional down to about 55%.
That's
so
not much.
It's not enough. And what we're really looking at is, because of climate change and warming, as we go into drought conditions, the droughts will come and go, but because of the change in ambient temperature over time, the droughts become much more severe.
So with rising temperatures, we have rising severity in droughts? We
have rising severity because what happens is the snow melts much faster. It gets flushed out into the ocean. We have much more rainfall as opposed to snow, because snow is our great reservoir.
Sure.
And what happens is, with the temperatures rising, we lose that, and we don't have the ability to really capture the water as effectively. And
so there are some friends who would say that climate change is not a reality, that climate change is just a natural cycle, and this is not anything we need to worry about. It's not permanent. They look at the severe weather events as evidence that this is just a cycle. What's your sense of their views?
Well, I attended a symposium a few months ago by one of the leading climatologists in the country, and he was specifically addressing the drought, and he spoke to these issues, and they can track pretty reliability what's happened with temperatures over time and what that progression is. Now, who can predict 50 or 100 years from now, but at least in the near term to the longer term, I think we're looking at a change that's occurring over time that is going to have a continuing significant effect.
And some that have looked forward believe that we could be facing prolonged periods of drought, and this is during our lifetimes. This is not hundreds of years, but some believe that we could be entering a phase that could be really life-changing for those that live in California, to the point that we may need to reevaluate where we live.
Well, I think that what we have to do is we've got to make the assumption that what we're living in now in terms of water supply is the new normal.
Okay,
and
I understand.
Look at it from that perspective, and if we adapt for that, and if we provide for adequate storage, then we have that rainy, no pun intended, that rainy day fund, where we can allow the reservoirs to fill up, and then we have the ability to much better weather, extreme portions or periods of drought.
So let's talk about storage, because storage is no longer a dirty word. 20, 30 years ago it was a dirty word. It meant dams, and dams were to be damned, and that's not a positive element. We know that the water bond passed, and a significant portion of it, $2.7 billion, is for storage. One could define storage in different ways. It could be above ground, below ground. What's your sense of that $2.7 billion? Where will it go, should it go, and how does Western get a piece of it?
Well, as you mentioned, above ground, below ground. And there's issues with both. Above ground, it's very expensive,
Right.
and you have a significantly higher degree of environmental clearances that you've got to go through. Below ground, or groundwater,
Groundwater.
then what you're talking about now is, in most cases, you're going to have some form of remediation, in other words, cleanup, because effectively over time, the groundwater supplies have been somewhat contaminated. And so that's where the
Even
water
in the Inland Empire?
Oh, definitely.
Especially in the Inland Empire.
We've had some significant issues in the Inland Empire.
Was it military bases? What caused this pollution?
A lot of the pollution out of the Bunker Hill Basin was a chemical called perchlorate,
Oh, yeah.
which was used to manufacture rocket fuel.
And used at dry cleaners and all those other wonderful places.
And that has gotten into the Bunker Hill Basin, and so Lockheed Martin actually has had to pay out millions and millions of dollars to the water agencies to remediate and clean up the groundwater.
But I've heard, for example, I mean, we look at the water bond. I think there's about $1 billion for groundwater remediation in the water bond. I have heard, for example, if you look at the San Fernando Valley Basin, they could spend the whole $1 billion just themselves, and then maybe their basin would be cleaned. And that's but one basin in a state that is very significant in size. So where do we go on this question? Because $1 billion, sure, it's a lot of money, but I understand it won't scratch the surface of the need.
Well, it gets us a long ways there if done right, because we don't have that now. So
Right,
if
0% of zero is zero, but still.
But what you do then is you take and judiciously spread it around, and maybe rather than sinking 10 wells in that basin and remediating it, maybe they do 2, and they clean up that.
And forgive me, I'm kind of a wannabe science nerd, so help me out, because I know you know these questions and know the answers. So if there's a basin that needs remediating, you can't remediate the whole basin. You can section it off in such a way that you can remediate 20% of it?
No,
How would you do that?
What you're doing really is you're treating it once you pump it out.
I understand. Okay.
That's, it depends on what volume of water you're going to extract from that basin.
And is that the method of remediation? It's just cleaning it when it comes up? It's not doing anything to it in the ground or treating the soil in the ground? Or
Well, what can be done through conjunctive use is put more water into the basin.
And that dilutes?
That starts to dilute, which helps. So the more that you can recharge into a basin, it has somewhat of a flushing effect.
Right.
You still have to use the same methods to clean it up once you pull it out, but it tends to do that.
Now, during this drought, we've been relying significantly on groundwater. It's really been our savior.
Absolutely.
The problem, though, is that we've been relying on it so much that in some areas, as I understand it, there is subsidence, which is when the ground collapses on itself. In some areas closer to the coast, there is either saltwater intrusion or there's a risk of saltwater intrusion.
Right.
So where are we, given what we've needed to do to stay afloat? Excuse the pun.
Well, as you mentioned, there's been some areas of severe subsidence, and what happens as the ground subsides, you're losing your reservoir capacity for that groundwater, and you can't get that back.
Right. You can't re-expand it.
You can't re-expand it, and that's a real problem. So what has to be done, and a big component of that $2.7 billion we were talking about, does it go to surface water? Does it go to groundwater? Well, you've got to take a balanced approach so that we replenish these groundwater supplies so we don't have further subsidence.
What about the areas with saltwater intrusion? Is that easier to fix?
Well, what you have to do with areas of saltwater intrusion, then you got to put desal.
And that's expensive.
Desalinization. It's expensive, but it's being utilized more and more in basins. I mean,
You'll come back?
absolutely.
You know what you're talking about. His name is Bob Stockton. He is a director with the Western Municipal Water District. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.